better work, right? Because it's like, think about, you look at the NBA, right? So you have Kevin Durant joining the Golden State Warriors. Like, what does he do to them? Right? Like, he changes the whole way that the game is faced, right? Because he's an additional threat, right? And so you kick it inside to Kevin Durant, and it's like, all right, he can go in the hole, he can take the shot, and all of a sudden that frees up Steph Curry. And so he's able to take easier shots, and he can make them with higher probability too. So there's the productivity gains to other people. There's less reliance on the government, and then there's also, if you're making more money, what does the government get from you because you're making more money?
More taxes.
Exactly. What does the government do with taxes?
Pay for the education of others.
They pay for the education of others, they pay for national defense, they pay for any number of public goods, right? Okay, good. And so all of those are the market benefits for investing in education. Just to tie this back, again, what we said was that the job of school finance is to create an environment that incentivizes individuals to invest in the socially optimal level of education, right? So let's take somebody who says, look, I can get welfare, so like I'm good. I do not need to get an education. I can just totally just chill, right? But this person is brilliant, right? They're absolutely brilliant, and like if they actually applied themselves, they could be the next Steve Jobs. We want to get that person to go to school. We want to get that person to have an education so that they can unleash their potential, because the world is waiting for what they have to offer. Okay? What are some of the non-market benefits, private benefits to getting an education? And this is not a trick question; they're all there. So don't be shy.
Greater mobility,
Uh-huh.
greater consumer efficiency, better household health.
Greater mobility, greater consumer efficiency, and better household health. So give me an example of how like a more educated person might actually have better household health.
Maybe they can afford their private plan.
Okay, yeah, they might be able to afford better healthcare. They might also just know how to take care of their bodies more, right? In terms of like utilizing the right supplements, and so on and so forth. What are some of the social benefits to? And you missed a big one too, right? What's another big private one? What's non-market?
The non-wage remuneration, fringe benefits, and working conditions.
But even bigger than that,
Future opportunities and children.
for their kids, right? All of you guys here are going to be Clemson alum. What does that mean for your kids? Your kids are going to have a better shot at getting into Clemson. Right? It's like, what's the benefit to me of being an MTA member? My grandkids are going to get like Clemson tickets. That's huge. What about on the societal side? What are some of the non-market societal benefits of school finance?
Lower crime rates, less spread of infectious diseases, better social cohesion, civic participation.
Yeah, so like a big part. So Martin Luther King has this famous quote where he says, "The goal of education is to prepare people for citizenship." Right? It's to prepare you to be a good neighbor. It's to prepare you to be someone who is an informed voter, and so on and so forth. Because like if you are helping, if you are better off, society is better off. And so there are these two reasons. And so let's put this down as so the benefits to education. We can split into private. So this is like individual. And societal. Also market. And non-market. So this is citizenship. And I'm going to put here insert table 1 from that.
It's the rice paper.
What's that?
It's the rice paper.
Oh, the rice paper. Thank you so much. So this could be like a question on the final, right? list two non-market benefits that accrue to an individual from having an education. And it doesn't just have to be the things that are on this table, right? There are other things that are not on this table, it's not exhaustive. Okay, right, good. So, let's go through like a couple of ideas. So, okay, so let's get No, I don't know, like, I feel like I'm being exposed, but then I have this coat underneath me, and so I feel like it's not, I'm thinking about it too much. Yes, so like, this is like, it's distracting me more than it's distracting things. Okay, let's go. All right, so let's go, some key terms. So we have localized finance. So what this basically is saying is that school district has control over how to spend money raised from the local tax base. Right? And that's in contrast to centralized finance, which is going to come from which two sources? Where's the centralized? What are going to be the sources of funding for centralized finance?
State budget.
Yeah. So the school district gets a share of resources from the state or federal budget. Okay. Now, we also going to define efficiency. And something is going to be efficient if an allocation is going to be efficient if there's no way to make someone better off without making somebody else worse off. And so you've probably encountered this notion of efficiency, Corrigo efficiency, like in your previous courses. How many of you guys have heard of that? Okay, great. So remember at the beginning of the class that we talked about, I think we used two of you guys, and we were talking about the cost of the chicken. And it's like one person likes pasta, the other person likes chicken. Right, like just we could switch the allocation to make sure that who gets what resource aligns with their preferences. So everybody's better off, nobody's worse off. Okay. So for efficiency, it's going to be so there is no way to make someone better off without making someone else worse off. So this sounds like a negative statement of efficiency, right? And there are two types of efficiencies. There's allocative efficiency and then there's productive efficiency. And what allocative efficiency is going to mean is like we're getting the allocation right. And productive efficiency is like we're getting it at the lowest cost, right? So it could be that from an allocative efficiency standpoint, we want to make sure that everybody gets a high school education because that's going to be efficient given both the private and the public benefits, right? When productive efficiency is, okay, given that everybody should get a high school education, what's the cheapest way to do that, right? Should we do this through vouchers? Should we do this through public schooling? Should we do it through, and so that's going to be productive efficiency. And so within this, we're going to have allocated efficiency, which is going to be getting the amount And this is just producing a given amount of education at the lowest cost. But this doesn't only apply to education, this applies to any other fields. But since we're talking about education, we'll use it that way. And then we have this notion of equity. And equity basically is just going to be saying that whatever we deem to be efficient, that's going to be applied to everyone. Right? So we're treating everyone the same. So equity is going to be applying standard of optimality. To everyone. And so we're not going to say, well, okay, for Jimmy over here, we want to make sure that he's getting the efficient level of education. But for Susie over here, it's like, well, we don't care as much about that now.
What's the last one on that policy?
Correct. This is correct. This one here.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll slow down a little bit so we can get it. Within equity, we have two types of equity. We have horizontal equity and we have vertical equity. So horizontal equity is going to say within a given state or like a given funding unit, we want to make sure that everybody's getting they have equal access to the same resources. And what vertical equity is going to say is that there's some people who are worse off and so they need more resources. So take, for example, special ed. If someone has a learning disability and you say, well, okay, horizontal equity would say everybody gets everybody gets a class ratio, a student to teacher ratio of 30 to 1. And it doesn't matter your race, your gender, your ability status, or what have you, right? That's horizontal equity. Vertical equity is going to say, well, given that we want a special needs student to progress at the same rate as a non-special needs student rather, we might need to provide them with a lower student-to-teacher ratio, maybe 5 students to 1 teacher, and that's going to be vertical equity. Everybody understand that? And so within equity, we have horizontal. And so this is everyone. Identifiably greater needs receive more resources. There are two other kind of key ideas in this literature. So one is going to be the idea of fiscal neutrality. And what this means is that how much resources you get should not be a function of how wealthy the community is that you're in. And so your access to education is not going to be impacted by how wealthy or how poor your neighborhood is. And so which one of these types of ways of funding education is not going to preserve fiscal neutrality? Property taxes. Why is property taxes not going to preserve fiscal neutrality?
Poorer neighborhoods where you don't own property, no property taxes.
Right. So we have fiscal neutrality. Which basically says that the resources allocated to a child's education does not depend on wealth Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is, any questions before we move on to the next part? Okay, so this is just to give you kind of like a dictionary, and this dictionary is really important because when we talk about education, there are these private versus public, kind of consequences of education, and then there's also like this huge resource allocation question, and there are going to be a lot of different dimensions, like efficiency and like equity, that we have to really wrestle with. What I want to talk with you about is about the provision of local public goods. And an example of a public good would be something like national defense, right? And it has to have two components. One is that it has to be non-rival and non-excludable. And what we mean by that is, for example, like it's not excludable in the sense that everybody has access to it. So like a very good example of it would be like fireworks, right? Like me looking at the fireworks doesn't take away fireworks from your experience of looking at the fireworks, for example. And education is kind of like an impure public good in the sense that if you have more people getting access to the education, then that's going to diminish the amount of resources that any individual person is going to get. So it's not going to be like, it's not like a non-rival good in the sense that one person having access to the resource is going to diminish another person's access to the resource, right? And you can argue that it's not excludable in the sense that, well, if there's a public mandate for education, you're not excluding anybody. So in that sense, it's an pure public good. But what we want to think about now is the TBU model of sorting, and the idea is the following. What if there was competition amongst local districts for people? And so if you were somebody that did not like high taxes and you were fine with having a really crappy school system, but the trade-off was that you were to pay less taxes, that we could actually sort people into their preferred allocation of public goods without having any government intervention. Right? So you create a market. There are certain public goods where it's important that we provide these public goods in kind of a general way, but they're different. There's heterogeneity in terms of the level of the public good provision that should happen. And if you have enough of these districts that are competing with each other, then you can get like efficient allocation. People like really good schools can pay a lot of money and go into the places that have like really high property taxes. The people who don't care about schooling can sort into the places where there's zero property taxes, then everything will be good. And so let's talk a little bit about what are some of the benefits of this setup, and then also what are some of the implications of this. So can I erase these things here? Okay. What we do is let's take a 3-minute break. And we can come back in.
Thursday morning.